I've always felt a deep pride about the Tata Group and an affection for Mr. Tata, although he doesn't really know me and I've never really worked in the Tata Group. And I think that comes from many of us, really, and it has to do with what he has stood for and their group has stood for as an institution to bring pride to all of us and feel a sense of ownership as a co-Indian, if you will. To me and many others, of course, Mr. Tata is an inspiration and a legend. And, we really share in some small ways similar values, which is that I know each of our entrepreneurs here and our portfolio companies want to do more than creating value for themselves and their shareholders, but they also want to really create impact in the community and build institutions. And on behalf of Kalaari team and on behalf of each of the CEOs that are here, I really can't think of a better person to talk about building institutions with us than Mr. Tata. And I'm honored that he has agreed to be with us today and also has agreed to be an advisor for Kalaari portfolio companies as needed. And with that, I would welcome Mr. Tata to join me on the stage. One of the sort of first questions that I ponder and would love to get your thoughts is leadership. You're ranked amongst the greatest leaders in this country, amongst global giants. But is leadership acquired? Is it inborn? And each of these young entrepreneurs are going to become legends in their own right in time. How should they think about leadership?
Rather than, it's okay. Yeah. Then try to define what constitutes acts of leadership, I think it would be easier to say that if you were a leader of an enterprise and you were committed to do the right thing rather than the easiest thing or the best thing, but do what you believe is right, both for the community, for the customers you serve, the employees that you have, irrespective of how difficult or how hard that might be, and that you don't succumb to subjective systems, then that's a set of ingredients for good leadership. And it's, unfortunately, in some parts of the world, it's a minority view, but I think still perhaps the most constructive answer I can give to your question. Leadership or entrepreneurship doesn't necessarily start and stop at the top. It goes all the way down through an organization. And I'll give you an example. When the terrorists attacked the Taj Hotel in Bombay, there was no manual or no training that told the staff what to do. The staff locked the restaurant doors, turn off the lights, make everybody lie on the floor, move them out through the kitchen and save those lives and give, in many cases, give their own life for the customer. It wasn't instructed. There was no planning. There wasn't a simulator to undertake to do this. Once again, I would say there's no roadmap to leadership. It emerges at a point in time. I think certainly if most employees, if not all employees, have the pride of belonging to an enterprise and feel that the enterprise provides them with a fair and just environment, then that sense of belonging would drive people to do this. And in an organization where that doesn't hold true, it wouldn't be then, there's an I don't care kind of syndrome. And it's certainly the obligation of the CEO and the senior management to give all employees a sense of belonging. And that's not by providing freebies or shares or ESOPs or anything of this nature. It's how you deal with all employees, how you deal with customers, how well connected the CEO is with his organization, hardships of his people. Those are the issues that weld an organization together. More difficult when it gets large, easier when it's small. A very hopeful thing in India, as an example, would be the fact that in today's context, there are young, bright, and capable entrepreneurs who risk not being part of a big company to set up an enterprise in India where they hope to make a difference. And if that difference is being made in the marketplace through their hard work, through their innovation, through their ingenuity, rather than in the dark corridors of power to try and clip the wings of their competitors, then I think India has a great future. Young entrepreneurs will make a difference in India to make the best company in the marketplace win, and the not so good struggle to stay alive. The days of seeking protection through legislation, through subjective means, should not be the way that we see growth in India in young enterprises. And I think young entrepreneurs should guard against the easier option of seeking protection directly, indirectly in the marketplace. No, I think it's not. How you deal with it when it happens. Like you, I have scars of downturns and euphoric moments where investments are considered to be good and other moments when investments are looked upon at how could you be so stupid. So there's no way, again, that you can follow a roadmap that tells you how to deal with it. How you deal with it as openly and as transparently as you can and as honestly as you can to the investor, to the customer, etc. Sometimes it's beyond your control, and other times it's well within your control and you need to act on it. I think the young entrepreneur has to have a sense of commitment to what he's trying to do. He's risked his personal net worth in some cases, or certainly several years of his life, to making something happen. If he's not just driven by the greed of making a fortune, but instead making a difference in leaving a mark on the communities and the customer base that the marketplace that he's serving, then I think he can look forward to a satisfaction of seeing his business grow and making that mark. I can only say that the protection for that are people like yourself, people who have similar faith and confidence in a young entrepreneur who's willing to take and share the risk and the benefits. I think the conventional forms of developing talent or identifying talent or capability in a company are given, they exist. I think the issue of identifying talent in the landscape is a more challenging one and in many ways a more satisfying one. I found, for example, and have always made time for young entrepreneurs to drop in and see me. Some of my colleagues think I'm wasting my time, but those people leave my office leaving me with a strong view that this person is different. And very often, I could say with pride that we have done things to put them into the supply chain, to encourage them to produce product that we use, to help them technologically to get on their feet. And it's very gratifying to see some years later this person being a successful entrepreneur with a defined business, which is secure, hopefully run in a very objective manner.
Entrepreneurs, I know they will all nod their head when I say when they go to their boards with people like me or Kumar or Rajesh or Vin or other people that are here, we tell them to focus. okay? And they come back and say, well, you know, the Tata Group can do whatever, hotels to steel, or somebody else can do. So they want to diversify. This becomes always a point of discussion and contention. So at what point and in what strategy is diversification versus focus justified? How do you find that equilibrium?
You know, I think it's a cultural issue. Conglomerates were the flavor of the month in the 60s in the United States. You had very successful conglomerate operations that were just like what you said in steel, in aerospace, in material sciences, etc. All these conglomerates they went back to their core businesses, as they called them, and spun off the extraneous businesses. Yet in India and in Korea and in Japan, conglomerates have succeeded in being successful despite the diversity. And I think it's a cultural issue. There's nothing wrong in having diversity if you can manage it well. And there's nothing wrong in being a core business company focused in one or two or three businesses. It's your commitment to those diverse businesses.
I would suggest that if you have a question, just identify yourself so Mr. Tata knows who you are, a little bit of yourself also, and then ask your question. It's your moment.
You know, I think we all underplay the impact or the lack of impact, as the case might be, of the changing times or luck or the environment around us. So something that you feel that you have exercised extreme clarity and have extreme clarity in the way forward turns out to have obstacles that you had not counted on. And in other cases where you felt uncomfortable, you find that the road has been clear and it's been an issue of great success. I can say with humility that I've had my share of both. I've had projects which I've gone to bed at night thinking that you've really got a winner, and it fails. It fails for a number of reasons, and those reasons may be within your control, within your corporate's control. Maybe the concept is wrong. And another case where you feel that you thought this through carefully, you had a real winner on your hands. And in this particular case, you had some roadblocks that you saw, and the roadblocks aren't there at all. And the thing sails through, and you look back and you say, you were wrong. I think the biggest challenge one has is, as the head of an enterprise, is how long to stay with an enterprise because you believe in that it will succeed and you have to stay with it to overcome its initial difficulties, or whether you should painfully let it go and cut your losses and exit and learn your lessons from it. And each case is different. Probably the greatest challenge that any leader would have, deciding inside that he lets go or he stays with something and sees it through for success. The tone and the culture of a company, I think, is given by the CEO, and it travels down through the organization. I think the responsibility of a leader to have a culture that he can be proud of. Not a culture that's maximizing profit alone, but a culture that we can be proud of in terms of how we do our business. Let the environment test you all the time, which is the kind of culture that you should be prepared for. Growth and the development of entrepreneurship or enterprise has to be directly related to the profitability or the attractiveness of those enterprises in a free market situation. And entrepreneurs create enterprises because they're attracted to that, or they consider there's a business opportunity for them to be in them, and the environment enables them to do that. What we need in India to make that happen is the environment to encourage people to risk their net worth, to risk their reputation, to risk some years of their life to make something happen is rather difficult. I think there needs to be a finance capability to look at providing funds to promising companies, and there has to be no fear of failure. An issue of an enterprise failing needs to be a lesson learner rather than demolishing the reputation of an individual. All along, I think many managers or leaders in large corporations secretly want that corporation to work like an enterprise, like a meaningful small enterprise. The happiest times you had was not when you're a leader, when you're alone at the top, but when you were in a company expressing your ideas, where you knew everybody that was around you by their first name. I think anybody that's going international or going through an acquisition just to become bigger is doing the wrong thing. I think if one looks at going international as serving markets that you feel you can address, that you have successfully addressed in your own country and now believe that adds to your scale and adds to your efficiency, that's fine. Or if it seeks a market niche that you believe that you can access, that's fine. But if it's just to grow or grow by acquisition or even organically, just to say that you're international and it's not driven by strategy, then I think you're doing the wrong thing. The advance in digital products and digital applications, I find myself unable to keep up with them. Yes, I have an iPad. Yes, I use an iPhone. It doesn't help me to type with 2 fingers as I do. And I crave for a situation where there can be a good voice-to-text conversion that I can depend on and that I don't have to teach over a period of time. I wish I could read from the screen, but I feel more comfortable, like many of us secretly do, with pieces of paper which we hold in our hands, rather than read or transcribe onto a screen. And I use a cell phone that I probably use 5% of its capability. If I honestly make a commitment to get to know it better, there's a new product on the market that I have to relearn and readdress. I would say that digital products and digital life attract me enormously, but am I digitally wired? No, I think I have a lot of short circuits in my system. The dream I have of India is to have an India where everybody has an equal opportunity. I think sitting where I am and oriented as I am, what I see and what hurts me is that we're still a country that's somewhat feudal, that it's important who your father is, what your surname is, how much power you wield, what's your wealth, and that sets you apart from the next person who could be just as good as you are, but doesn't have some of these attributes. India needs to transform itself into the environment where any Indian has the ability, if he is willing to make the effort, to succeed, and the environment will applaud him for succeeding and not envy him for succeeding.
Through your own personal commitment endeavors and through Tata Trust as an institution, so you have done more for India than most of us can even possibly conceive of or dream, and in that we are all collectively thankful.
Thank you very much.